Hi everyone, welcome to our reading class today. We're going to be reading about the storytelling stone. So before we begin, we're going to be learning about genre. Legends are stories that are handed down from the past and are based on the beliefs and traditions of a people or a region. Literary elements that we're also going to be going over is going to be personification. Personification is when an animal or a thing is given human characteristics in a poem or a story. Let's begin reading. The Storytelling Stone, a Seneca story from the northeastern United States by Joseph Brushaw. Long ago, there were no stories in the world. Life was not easy for the people, especially during the long winters when the wind blew hard and the snow piled high about the longhouse. One winter day, a boy went hunting. He was a good hunter and managed to shoot several partridge. As he made his way back home through the snow, he grew tired and rested near a great rock, which was shaped almost like the head of a person. No sooner he had sat down than he heard a deep voice speak. "I shall now tell a story," said the voice. The boy jumped up and looked around. No one was to be seen. "Who are you?" said the boy. "I am Great Stone," said the rumbling voice, which seemed to come from within the earth. The boy realized it was the big standing rock which spoke. "I shall now tell a story." "Then tell it," said the boy. "First, you must give me something," said the stone. So the boy took one of the partridge and placed it on the rock. Let's pause for a second. We can see here that the rock tells a story. This is an example of personification. This helps the reader see that the rock is like a person. Remember, personification means when an animal or a thing, in this case the rock, is given human characteristics in a poem or story. In this case, the rock is acting like a person. So this is called person, kind of like person, personification. Now let's get back to our reading. "Then tell it," said the boy. "First, you must give me something," said the stone. So the boy took one of the partridge and placed it on the rock. "Now tell your story, grandfather," said the boy. Then the great stone began to speak. It told a wonderful story of how the earth was created. As the boy listened, he did not feel the cold wind, and the snow seemed to go away. When the stone had finished, the boy stood up. "Thank you, grandfather," said the boy. "I shall go now and share the story with my family. I will come back tomorrow." The boy hurried home to the longhouse. When he got there, he told everyone something wonderful had happened. Everyone gathered around the fire, and he told them the story. He heard from the great stone. The story seemed to drive away the cold, and the people were happy as they listened, and they slept peacefully that night, dreaming good dreams. The next day, the boy went back again to the stone and gave it another bird, which he had shot. "I shall now tell a story," said the big stone, and the boy listened. It went on this way for a long time. Throughout the winter, the boy came each day with a present of game. The great stone told him a story of the old times. The boy heard the stories of talking animals and monsters, tales of what things were like when the earth was new. When they were good stories and they taught important lessons, the boy remembered each tale and retold it to the people who gathered at night around the fire to listen. One day, though, When the winter was ending and the spring about to come, the great stone did not speak when the boy placed his gift of wild game. "Grandfather," said the boy, "tell me a story." Then the great stone spoke for the last time. "I have told you all of my stories," said Great Stone. "Now the stories are yours to keep for the people. You will pass these stories on to your children, and other stories will be added to them as years pass. Where there are stories, there will be more stories. I have spoken. Neho." Thus it was that stories came into this world. To this day, they are told by the people of the long house during the winter season to warm the people. Whenever a storyteller finishes a tale, the people always give thanks, just as the boy thanked the storytelling stone long ago. Let's connect and compare. In your reading journal, I want you to answer all of these 3 questions. Number 1, how are great stones' actions like those of a real person? Use details from the story in your answer. Remember the definition of personification. For the second question, how do the stories help the boy and the people in the long house? You have to analyze your answer. And number 3, how are stories important to the people in the legend and Grace in Amazing Grace? Use details from the stories to support your answer. So remember, for that last question, you need to write in complete sentences. Make sure that you're using evidence from your stories. So if it's asking you, how are stories important to the people in the legend and Grace in Amazing Grace? Remember, we read the story Amazing Grace. So you want to use details, actual evidence, things that you can go back and find in the book that show you why stories are important to the people in this legend and why they're important to Grace and Amazing Grace. This is the end of this story. I hope that you enjoyed the storytelling stone. I do believe something very magical can happen when you read a book. A quote by J.K. Rowling. Don't forget to read your books, everybody.